guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to learn how to make the Viva dress. I don't know if you guys have tried out the Viva tank top, but if you have and you were wondering how to turn it into a dress, here is the video for you. If you haven't yet tried out, we already have a tutorial for the top, but this dress will start right from the beginning, so you have nothing to worry about. You can go ahead and watch right from the beginning. If you have already tried out the top and you want to transform it into a dress, just skip over to the dress part of this this tutorial. The top is already done. We shall be making some increases when it comes to the hip coverage right after the top. And yeah, these are some of the images by one of my testers who tried out the Viva dress. And if you guys don't know what the Viva dress is, the first version was a bareback, and I'll be leaving some of the images on the screen for you guys to see. We already have a pattern for that. We already have a pattern for the Viva tank top, and now we are going to create a Viva dress with full coverage. And the pattern for this is already also available on all my online shops. So let's get started. The yarn that I'm using is this Flores yarn. It's 50 grams. The hook that I'll use for this project is a 4mm crochet hook, and then you'll also need a measuring tape to take some measurements and a pair of scissors to cut your loose ends. So let's get started. You're going to first take a measurement around the bust area, so your full bust measurement, and note it down. So for me, the measurement that I'm considering is 32 or 34, which is a size small to medium. So you're going to start off with a slip knot. I have my knots written down here, so if you would like the written pattern, it's already available on all my online shops. I'll be leaving all the details in the description box below. So you're going to start off with a slip knot, and you're going to make a chain of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So you're going to make 1 double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. So we're going to count from this one, 1, 2, 3, and into the 4th we're placing a double crochet. So you're going to yarn over, insert your hook into the 4th chain, pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. So that's a double crochet. So from here, you're going to make a chain of 2 and double crochet into the next chain. And then you're going to make 1 double crochet into the very last chain, which is this one. So that marks the end of row 1. You should have something that looks like this. Let's go on to row 2. Alright, now for row 2, you're going to make a chain of 3, turn your work, and you're going to go into the chain 2 space of the previous row, which is this one, and you're going to place a V-stitch. A V-stitch is 1 double crochet, chain 2, and 1 more double crochet into the same exact space. Then from here, you're going to skip over the next stitch and go on top of the chain 3 on the edge of the previous row and place 1 double crochet into it. So this marks the end of row 2. This is what you'll have. Now we are going on to row 3. You're going to make a chain of 3, turn your work, and go into the chain 2 space of the V-stitch and place a V-stitch. So 1 double crochet, chain 2, and 1 more double crochet into the same exact space, creating a V-stitch in here, and you go on top of the last chain 3 of the previous row and place a double crochet into the top chain of the chain 3. So this marks the end of row 3. We are going to repeat this until we have a total of 8 rows. So chain 3, turn your work, V-stitch into the chain 2 space of the V-stitch from the previous row, and then 1 double crochet on top of the chain 3 on the edge of the previous row. So right now we are working the straps first, and this top is worked in panels, and we're going to create a total of 4 panels because we divide this project into 4 panels that are later joined to make one complete piece. So these are the straps. So far we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I told you we have to repeat this until we have a total of 8 rows. So this is the 6th, and as you can see, I'm doing the same exact thing. That's why we're getting a uniform flow of the pattern for each and every row. So this is row 7, chain 2, 1 double crochet, and then 1 double crochet on top of the chain 3. Repeat that 1 more row, which is row 8. Alright, so once we get to row 8, your work should look like this. Now we're going on to row 9, and we're going to make a chain of 3, and now we're going to start increasing to create coverage for our bust, because this is very thin to cover up our bust. We're starting to grow our panel like this so that we can create coverage for our top. So chain 3 into the chain 2 space of the previous row. This time, instead of placing a V-stitch, we are placing a shell, and a shell is 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets into the same space. So we've placed a shell into the V-stitch from the previous row, and then you're going to prepare for a double crochet and place 1 double crochet into the last chain 3 of the previous row. So just place a double crochet there. Now this is row 9. Now we are going on to row 10. For row 10, you're going to make a chain of 3, turn your work, and you are going to place a double shell. So a double shell is into the chain 2 space, you're going to place 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets, like that. So now we have created 2 chain 2 spaces on row 10. After that, you're going to go into the very last stitch, which is the chain 3, and you're going to place a double crochet there. So this marks the end of row 10. Row 11, you're going to make a chain of 3, turn your work, and you're going to go into the first chain 2 space and work a shell. So the first chain 2 space of row 10, and you're going to make a shell, which is 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets into the same chain 2 space, like that. Now you're going to make a chain of 2, and into the next chain 2 space, which is this one, you're still going to place a shell, which is 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets. So this is what you'll have for your row 11, and into the very last stitch of the previous row, which is the chain 3, you're going to go into it with 1 double crochet, and this marks the end of row 11. Now we are going on to row 12, and you're going to make a chain of 3, turn your work, into the first chain 2 space, you're going to place a shell. So this one, you're going to place a shell, which is 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets. Then you're going to place a V-stitch into the next chain 2 space, which is this one. A V-stitch is 1 double crochet, chain 2, and 1 more double crochet into the same space. Then you're going to go into the next chain 2 space and work a shell. So into this space you're going to place 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets, which is a shell. And then you're going to place 1 double crochet into the last stitch, which is the chain 3. So make sure you go into the very top chain of the chain 3 from the previous row and place a double crochet there. So this marks the end of row 12. Now we're going on to row 13. You're going to make a chain of 3, turn your work. Into the first chain 2 space, you're going to work a shell. And by now you should be knowing what a shell is. 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets. And then work a shell into the V-stitch. So this is the V-stitch. So into the next chain 2 space of the V-stitch, you're going to place a shell, which is 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets into the same exact space. Like that. Now from here, you're going to go into the chain 2 space of the next shell, and you're going to place 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets, which is a shell still. So at this point we shall have a total of 1, 2, and 3 shells. And then you're going to go into the last stitch, which is on top of the chain 3, and you're going to place a double crochet there. This marks the end of row 13. Now we're going on to row 14. Row 14, you're going to start with a chain of 3, turn your work, skip the next stitch, which is this one, this double crochet here. We're going to skip over it and place 1 double crochet into the next stitch right before the chain 2 space. Place a double crochet there. Work a shell into the next chain 2 space. So 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets, like that. Place 1 double crochet into the next stitch. So we're placing 1 double crochet into the next stitch. Then skip the next 2 stitches and 1 double crochet into the next stitch. So prepare for a double crochet, skip 2 stitches, this one, and then place 1 double crochet into the next, which is the one right below the chain 2 space of the next shell. Then you're going to place a shell into the next. And then you're going to make chain 2 and 2 double crochets. So that counts as a shell. After this, you're going to go into the next stitch with 1 double crochet, and then prepare for a double crochet and skip over 2 stitches. Go into the next with 1 double crochet. Go into the next chain 2 space with 1 shell. Which is 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets. And then from here, you're going to place 1 double crochet into the next stitch. And then you're going to skip over the next stitch and go into the top of the chain 3 and place a double crochet there. So this marks the end of row 14. This, you will notice that your work has started creating peaks and valleys. The peaks are these ones, the chain 2 spaces, and the valleys are these ones in between the shells, the ones that are a bit lower. So that's how I can keep track of this pattern. So let's go on to row 15. For row 15, you're going to make a chain of 3, turn your work, skip the next stitch, and 1 double crochet into the next 2 stitches. So skip this, and then 1 double crochet into the next 2 stitches right before the chain 2 space. And when you get to the chain 2 space, you know exactly what to do. you're going to place a shell there, which is 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets, like that. And then you're going to go into the next 2 stitches with 1 double crochet into each, like that. Then prepare for a double crochet and skip over 2 stitches, and then 1 double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches right before the next chain 2 space of the next shell. So I hope I'm not over talking. I hope I'm explaining everything right. So if you're getting some value from this video so far, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give this video a thumbs up if you're enjoying your project so far. So after your shell into the chain 2 space, you're going to go into the next 2 stitches with 1 double crochet into each. Prepare for a double crochet, skip 2 stitches, and into the next 2 stitches you're going to place 1 double crochet into each, and then place a shell into the next chain 2 space, chain 2, 2 double crochets, and then 1 double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, like that. Skip over the next stitch and then 1 double crochet on top of the very last chain 3. So this is how your work will look like. Let me first detangle this yarn. So do what you have to do to get to this point. We are now on row 15. Yeah, I was just cross-checking, but we are on row 15. Now, there's some things that you have to note. You have to note that the stitches that we are placing before the shells are increasing each row, for each row. For example, on row 14, we had 1 stitch before the shell. 1 stitch before the shell in the chain 2 space. On row 15, we have 2 stitches before the shell. Now that means on row 16, we have 3 stitches before the shell, and row 16 is going to be a chain of 3. Turn your work, skip 1 stitch, which is this one, and then go into each of the next 3 stitches with 1 double crochet into each, and then place a shell into the chain 2 space. After your very first shell, I'm here completing my first shell of this row. After this, you're going to make 1 double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches, and then prepare for a double crochet, skip over 2 stitches, and then into the next stitch you're going to place 1 double crochet and continue to double crochet until you get to the chain 2 space. So you'll have a total of 3 double crochets before you get to the chain 2 space. So when you get to the chain 2 space, you're going to place a shell as usual, and I think now we are getting the hang of the pattern. After this, you're going to place 1 double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. Prepare for a double crochet, skip 2 stitches, and 1 double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. After this, you're going to place a shell into the next chain 2 space, which is the very last one for this row. After placing a shell here, we're going to go into the next 3 stitches with 1 double crochet into each, and you'll be left with the chain 3 at the edge and 1 double crochet here. So we're going to prepare for a double crochet and go on top of the chain 3 after skipping the second last stitch. So this is what you'll have for row 16. Now we're going on to row 17. You're going to make a chain of 3, turn your work, skip over the next stitch and 1 double crochet into the next, and then continue to double crochet until you get to the chain 2 space. So we are placing 1 double crochet into each double crochet until we get to the chain 2 space, and that gives us 4 stitches before the shell. When you get to the chain 2 space, we are placing a shell, and then from here you're going to place 1 double crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then prepare for a double crochet by yarning over, skip 2 stitches, and then into the next stitch you're going to place a double crochet and continue to double crochet until you get to the chain 2 space. And this is obvious, you're going to get a total of 4 double crochets because on the row where we are placing 4 stitches before the shell, and then place a shell into the chain 2 space, like that, and then you're going to go into the next 4 stitches with 1 double crochet into each, then from here you're going to prepare for a double crochet by yarning over, skip 2 stitches, and then 1 double crochet into the next. Now I think now you can go on and finish up your row. 1 double crochet in each of the next 4 stitches, then into the chain 2 space we are placing a shell, from here you're going to go into each of the next 4 stitches with 1 double crochet into each until you have 2 stitches left, the chain 3 and the stitch here. So you're going to prepare for a double crochet, skip over this last stitch here before the chain 3 and go on top of the chain 3 with 1 double crochet, and this marks the end of row 17. Row 18 is basically the same, so we're chaining 3. I'm going to rush through this one because by now you know exactly what to do. I've tried my best to explain from the beginning so that you get used to the pattern somehow. So I'll be explaining though. Skip over the next stitch, 1 double crochet into the next, and continue to double crochet until you get to the chain 2 space. And for row 18 we're going to have a total of 5 double crochets before we get to the shell. So place a shell into the chain 2 space, 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, and now we're going to place 1 double crochet in each of the next 5 stitches. From here you're going to yarn over, skip over 2 stitches, and then 1 double crochet in each of the next 5 stitches. Okay, from here you're going to go into the chain 2 space with a total of 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, which is a shell, and then 1 double crochet in each of the next 5 stitches. Then from here you're going to prepare for a double crochet, skip over 2 stitches, 1 double crochet in each of the next 5 stitches. And then from here you're going to go into the chain 2 space with a shell, and then 1 double crochet in each of the next 5 stitches, or until you have 2 stitches left, the chain 3 and the second last stitch. So we are at that point, and we are placing 1 double crochet into the top of the chain 3 on the edge of the previous row. So this is what you'll have. And by now you should be able to expand this panel as big as you want. So the measuring tape comes in when we are supposed to determine how many rows to do for ourselves, and to also figure out whether you should keep going on expanding this pattern, or this is the point where you want to stop expanding the pattern. So we have a total of 6.5, and we're considering our bust measurement. So imagine a measurement of 32 inches. 32 divided by 4, because we're going to do a total of 4 panels, is equal to 8. So we want to consider this measurement while slightly stretched, not fully that it's very like stretched, because that's not the fitting that we are going for. When slightly stretched, it can get to 8 inches, just slightly stretched, because this fitting, the fitting for this top is loose fitted. It's not like tightly fitted. So if you want to go for a tightly fitted garment, you're going to try to stretch out like this so that you get quarter of your bust measurement. So in case I was going for a very tight fitting, I would have stopped maybe on row 16 so that I can stretch this to 8 inches fully like that. But I don't want that because I want a loosely fitted tank top. So I'm going to stop on row 18, but feel free to continue until you get the measurement, just like I showed you, a quarter of your bust measurement when slightly stretched. As you can see here, I'm slightly stretching my panel at the base. So from here, let me show you what I did for this panel. Once you get done with your very first panel, you will just leave this loop open and cut your yarn and put it aside, and then repeat this 3 more times. We have this one, we have this one, and we have this one, and then the final one, which is still attached to our yarn ball. So we are now going to start attaching these panels together in order for us to start working in rounds and in order to shape the top at this point. Once you get the measurement that you need to do for your model or for yourself, you're going to do 3 other models, and then for the last one, make sure you don't cut your yarn from the yarn ball. This one is the one that's still connected. Alright guys, so I'm getting my very first panel, the one that's not attached to the yarn ball, and we're going to place our work like this so that all the tails are facing the same exact direction. So you're going to attach on top of the first chain 3 of the next panel and make a slip stitch like that, and then chain 1, pull through. So we've attached our first 2 panels together. So we're going to repeat this for the 3rd panel. Just put your hook through and slip stitch on top of the first chain 3 of the next panel, chain 1, and then pull through. So far we have 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to introduce this one that's attached to the yarn ball, and we are going to attach on top of the first chain 3 with a slip stitch, pull through. So far we have a total of 4 panels, as you can see here. Now we are going to fold our work into half and do this. I hope you can see the top coming together. So we're going to get the yarn that's attached to the yarn ball, that side that's attached to the yarn ball, and we're going to slip stitch into the end of the very first panel. And this time we're not cutting our yarn. Now we're going to start working in rounds, as you can see here. If you want your work loosely fitted, even more than this, you're going to just make sure you work your panels until you have quarter of your bust measurement when not stretched at all. So that will give you a very loose fitting. So from here, we're going to go on to round 1 because now we're going to start working in rounds. So another thing that you have to note at this point is that the edge stitches don't count as stitches in this pattern. This very final edge stitch is not considered as a stitch while working round 1, because you may consider it and then mess up the pattern. Make sure you just ignore the edge stitches of each and every panel. So let's go on to round 1. You're going to slip stitch into the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, and 3. And another thing that you have to note at this point is that we have finished increasing. No more increases at all. So we've placed 1 slip stitch into the next 3 stitches. And then you're going to make a chain of 3. Turn your work. Make sure you're working in the opposite direction of the previous row. After turning your work, you're going to skip a total of 4 stitches. So we are considering 1, 2, we are not considering the edge stitches, just like I told you before, 3 and 4. On this side, we're considering this one and this one. And then you're going to place 1 double crochet into the next. So just keep that in mind for only this row. Don't consider the edge stitches as stitches. So from there, you're going to just place 1 double crochet into each of the next stitches until you get to the chain 2 space. After this, you're going to place a shell into the next chain 2 space. And you should have a total of 5 stitches, 5 double crochets before the shell. Just like I told you, from now on, no more increases. And the very last row that we did, we had a total of 5 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 before the shell. So whatever number of stitches that you had before the shell on your very final round, that is the number that you're going to keep maintaining until the length of the top that you want. So since I had 5 for my final row of the panels, I have to maintain that number. So after this shell, we are placing 1 double crochet into each and every stitch. Like this. Now, the moment you get 5 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you will notice that this time we have 2 stitches left before we cross over to this peak. And remember, at the beginning, we skipped 2 and 2 on this side. So that's fair enough. It is perfectly fine. You're going to prepare for a double crochet, skip 2 stitches on this side and 2 stitches on this side, and then place 1 double crochet into the next and continue to double crochet all the way up. So this should give you 5 stitches right before the shell. So as you can see, we have a total of 5 stitches before the chain 2 space. So into the chain 2 space, we're going to place a shell. Like that. And then double crochet into each of the next stitches until you have 2 stitches left on this peak, or 2 stitches left before the valley. So the valley is this one. We have peaks and valleys. So 2 stitches left before the valley. So the valley is in this line that creates those spaces. So from here, prepare for a double crochet, skip 2 stitches after the valley, 1, 2, and then place 1 double crochet into the next and continue to double crochet into each and every stitch until you get to the chain 2 space. Once you get to the chain 2 space, you're going to place 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets. So I'm going to stop specifying the number of stitches because at this point we are all going to be at different levels, depending on the fitting that you went for, depending on your bust measurement and all that. So I'm going to just be giving general instructions. After this shell, you're going to place 1 double crochet in each of the next stitches until you have 2 stitches before the valley. So remember I told you when the panels meet, where we have these tails, we don't consider these 2 stitches as stitches. So prepare for a double crochet, skip over the 2 stitches, which are these ones, this one and this one, and then prepare for a double crochet, and then we skip this one and this one since this doesn't count as a stitch. So skip 2 stitches, and then into the next you're going to place 1 double crochet. And make sure when you're crossing over, you try to make your stitches a little bit tight so that they don't look awkward, like that. This will give you a neat finish. So 1 double crochet in each and every stitch until the chain 2 space. Then when you get to the chain 2 space, you're going to place a shell, which is 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets. So this is what you'll have. And I think now everything makes sense. We're going to continue this all the way around. I'll meet you back towards the end of my row and I show you how to wind up this part, because we are just repeating the same exact process all the way around the peaks and valleys until we get to around here, and I'll show you how to wind up your row. Alright guys, so we're here almost coming to the end of the row, and I'm placing my 1, 2, 3 and 4 stitches. This time they won't be 5 because the chain 3 at the beginning when we turned counted as a stitch, so you'll be having less by 1 stitch. The chains left before the chain 3 will be less by 1 stitch, not like the ones that we've been used to. So since I had 5 stitches all the way around, I should be having 4 stitches, and then the chain 3 counts as the 5th. And I'm going to go on top of the chain 3 and I place a slip stitch, and placing the slip stitch is going to move that chain onto this side. So as you can see here, now we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 stitches before the shell, and that is the sequence for this round. So place your work like this. So now we are going to go to round 2. This is what you should be having. Now round 2 is basically going to be the same thing. Remember, we've placed a slip stitch here. You're going to make a total of 3 slip stitches into each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2 and 3, and then you're going to make a chain of 3, turn your work, and you're going to skip the next 4 stitches. So 2 on this side, 1, 2 and 2 on this other side, but this time we are considering this one on the edge. So the other one of ignoring the edge stitch only works for the very first round. So you're going to skip 1, 2, and then into the next you're going to place 1 double crochet and continue to double crochet into each and every stitch until you get to the chain 2 space. And as you can see, we have a total of 5 stitches before the chain 2 space. So from here, place a shell, from here you're going to place 1 double crochet into each and every stitch until you have 2 stitches left before the valley. Here is the valley, we have 2 stitches left, so prepare for a double crochet by yarning over, skip 2 stitches on this side, and then 1 double crochet into the next. So we're going to just go all the way around doing this, and we're going to just repeat this round again and again and again until we get the length of the tank top that we need. You can make it cropped, you can make it up to your lower waist so that it's decent enough and you can wear it anywhere you go. For those who want the cropped version, you're going to have to do less rows. If you want the longer version, then definitely you're going to do more rows than the people who want the cropped version. But this is how easy this project is. It has so much explanation to do, and if you would like a written copy, you can purchase the pattern on all my online shops. Just a reminder, for those who can't keep up with such a video, just make sure you grab yourself a written pattern on all my online shops, and just have a copy with you just in case you get some orders for yourself and you can't sit through the video again. So I'm just going to keep working this until I get the length of the top that I want. Alright guys, so I went ahead to repeat round 2 again and again until I got to my waistline. So you're just going to grow your top. As you can see, this is the top part of the top or the dress at the moment. And now we are going to transform the tank top into a dress. Now, the first thing that you're going to do is get a measuring tape. So get a measuring tape and take the measurement at the base of the top. Try to slightly stretch it out. So when I slightly stretch it out, it goes to around 17 inches, which is doubled. 17 times 2 is 34. So I'm doubling the measurement because we have this side and this side. So 17 times 2 is 34. So that's the waist measurement that I have at the moment. If you wanted your waist to be like very tight, like on the skin, you would have stretched out this measurement fully when working. But I didn't want to do that. I want a comfortable fitting for my dress. So now we're going to start creating the dress part or the skirt part of the dress. So we're going to change the construction of the rows or the rounds that we have. Now, let's see. Round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I did a total of 13 rounds for my top. And now we're going to start constructing the dress part, and we're going to start creating increases for our dress to start creating coverage for the hip section. After your slip stitch here, we're going to start creating increases that create the coverage for our hip section. Remember, the hips are usually wider than the waistline. So since I have 34 here, I'm going to start creating increases until I get a measurement of 40 inches for my hip section. Now, at this point, you can start playing around with color, or if you already started mixing your colors, you can just go ahead and keep changing the colors, maybe after 3 rows or 4 rows or 5 rows, whatever you wish to have for your dress. You're going to slip stitch into the next double crochet, which is the first double crochet on this side, and then slip stitch into the next. So those are 2 slip stitches, and you're going to make a chain of 3, which counts as our very first double crochet of the next round, which is round 14, and turn your work. Now you're going to prepare for a double crochet, and you're going to skip 1 stitch. So you're skipping this one, and then into the next you're going to place 1 double crochet, and then continue to double crochet all the way up to the chain 2 space. Okay, what you should notice is the number of stitches before the chain 2 space must have increased by 1. So all along I had a total of 5 stitches before the chain 2 space, and now I have a total of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 stitches before the chain 2 space. This is because we are creating the increases, and if you don't have this, that means you're doing something wrong. So your stitches must have increased by 1. So into the chain 2 space, you're going to place a shell, which is 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets, like that. And then you're going to go into each of the next stitches with 1 double crochet until you have only 1 stitch left to that valley. So I've placed my double crochets until I have only 1 stitch left. You can see this stitch here. You're going to prepare for a double crochet and skip 1 stitch on this side as well. So we are skipping this stitch and this stitch, which is a total of 2 stitches, and then going into the next with 1 double crochet all the way up to the chain 2 space. And once you get to the chain 2 space, you're going to place a shell into the chain 2 space. So 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets into the chain 2 space. So we're going to repeat this all the way around, creating increases. Let me show you one more time. You're going to double crochet all the way down to the valley until you have 1 stitch left to the valley. So I have 1 stitch left, as you can see, and then I'm going to prepare for a double crochet by yarning over, skip over 2 stitches, the one on this side and the one on this side, and then go into the next with 1 double crochet. And then continue to double crochet all the way up to the chain 2 space. Now repeat this all the way around until you come to the end of your round. Alright, so I'm coming to the end of my first round of increase to make the dress coverage or the hip coverage of the dress. And I'm just placing 1 double crochet into each and every double crochet from the previous row until I get to the chain 3. So we are here, and this chain 3 counted as our very first double crochet of the round. You're going to just go into the top chain and place a slip stitch there. Now this marks the end of the very first increase round. There's something that I forgot to mention. If you feel like if you stretch out your work and you already get the measurement of your hips, because we all have different shapes and structures and sizes. So if you stretch out your work at row, let me say 14, round 13, this round of non-increase, and you get your hip measurement, there's no need for you to start creating increase rounds. Just continue with that until you get the length of the dress that you want. But I'm talking about people who have a very big difference when it comes to the ratio of the waist or the bust to the hip. So those are the people who are going to create these increases. Or if your hip measurement is wider than what you have at round 13, before you start the increase rounds. So we are done with our very first increase round. You may not see it right now, but the dress is going to start moving outwards like this. I think you've started noticing a change around here. So we are going to just, let me show you how to do that one more time. You're going to slip stitch, after you slip stitch here in the very first chain, you're going to slip stitch into the first stitch on this side, and then into the second stitch. So 2 slip stitches, and then chain 3 and turn your work. And then you are going to skip the first stitch on this side because we are still creating increases. So skip the first stitch, go into the second with 1 double crochet, and then double crochet all the way up. Like that. And then you are going to go into the next chain 2 space with a shell, After your shell, you're going to double crochet all the way until you have one stitch to the valley. And you're going to repeat that all the way around. Don't forget, here we only skip 2 stitches now. And you can see the space is smaller than what we had here, because for the rounds before, we were skipping 2 stitches on each side. But now we are skipping one stitch on each side. So go all the way around, and I'll meet you back at the beginning of this round. And I'll show you what to do from there. Okay guys, so we're coming to the end of round 2 of the increase rounds. The second increase round of the dress that creates the coverage for the hip accommodation. So I am double crocheting until I get to the chain 3 space, and then I'll just go into the very first chain and place a slip stitch there on top of the first chain 3. So let me show you what your work should look like. You should notice that your work is becoming wider at the base. I don't know if you guys can see this. Your work is spreading outwards, and that is going to give us the coverage for our hip area. Now, when you place your measuring tape like this, you can see without being stretched even, it's already at 17 inches. Yet before, we were getting 17 inches when stretched. So we're going to slightly stretch it so that you don't do this, because you don't want your dress to look like that on you. Just stretch it slightly and get that measurement across. So we're currently at around 21 inches or 20 inches. And that's the maximum that I want for my dress. The number of increase rounds are going to be very little. It could be 2 to 3 rounds of increase to accommodate half of your hip measurement when measured across. Because if I have 20 inches here, when stretched slightly, that means this dress will be able to fit around my hip, which is 40 inches. So the moment you're going to repeat this round until you get that measurement. Half of your hip measurement across, because we are multiplying it by 2, because we have 2 layers, this one and this one. So the moment you get that, we are going to switch back to the non-increase rounds, because when you get this, we are no longer making increases because we don't need them. If you continue to do this round, you're going to have a dress that is spreading outwards, and it's going to keep increasing and increasing, and we want something body hugging. So the moment you're done with your increase rounds, you're now going to go back to the non-increase rounds. So you're going to slip stitch into the next stitch, and into the next stitch, and into the next. So that's a total of 3 slip stitches. Then you're going to chain 3, which counts as our very first double crochet of the round, and then turn your work. And then prepare for a double crochet by yarning over. Skip 2 stitches this time, not 1. Skip 2, and then into the next, you're going to place a double crochet. And then continue to double crochet all the way up until you get to the chain 2 space. All right, now we've gotten to the chain 2 space. You're going to just place a shell there, which is 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets. And that's all. This round reminds us of the rounds that we were making before we started making the increase rounds. So that is the same exact procedure that you're going to take. This is basically round 2. It's round 2 that we were doing this. So repeat round 2 until you get the length of the dress that you want. And remember, you can play around with colors. You can go ahead and attach another color to your dress, just like you see in the photo on the thumbnail. And don't limit yourself to one color. play around with colors and get different effects for your dress. So you're going to double crochet until you have 2 stitches to the valley, and you can see we have this one and this one. So prepare for a double crochet and skip over 2 stitches on this side as well, and then double crochet into the next. So in other words, we've skipped 4 stitches, this one and this one, this one and this one, and then double crochet until you get to the chain 2 space. So repeat round 2 until you get the length of the dress that you want. So let me keep working and I'll show you what I'll get towards the end. Alright guys, this is what my work is looking like. I've done some rows or rounds of the non-increase round, which resembles round 2. And yeah, you're going to just keep working and working until you have the length that you want. You can see a photo here on the screen. Just refer to that. You can also go ahead and just personalize, just like Jessica, and she just put fringes on one side of the dress. That is her personal touch. You can do anything to this dress. You can change colors. You can change maybe the bottom color on the last maybe 5 rows of the dress. I'm going to go ahead and complete this one. You'll be seeing it on my Instagram page, but that's basically it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you give it a thumbs up if you did, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!